Georgia, Alabama. Sports Live will be your go-to for all your favorite high school and collegiate games this fall. From the Carver Tigers to the Columbus Blue Devils, the Harris County Tigers and Northside Patriots, the Glenwood Gators and Calvary Christian Knights, the Pacelli Vikings and Brookstone Cougars to the Smith Station Panthers and Russell County Warriors, from CVCC, Pirates basketball and baseball, and every tournament from here to Macon. We are the #1 destination for anything happening in East Alabama and West Central Georgia. Be sure to like and follow us on YouTube and Facebook, and stay tuned for even more amazing ways we will be bringing Georgia, Alabama Sports Live to you this upcoming season. We can't wait to come see you next. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show. We got Thrift, Barringer, we got Richard Holdridge, and we're coming off of elation. A fantastic night for everyone in the Tri-City community, not just the Columbus area, as the Carver Tigers are state champs. Man, we had a lot of fun. We're going to talk about that. But first, Richard, how you feeling, man? I know you were excited. It was a close call. You may not even be able to make it to the game, but you made it. You helped covered it. You did the pregame, the postgame show with me. Just a lot of fun.
Truly was just a once-in-a-lifetime experience to be at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium for the very first time in my life. I can't believe I've never been to a Falcons game or Atlanta United. Got to be on the sidelines. The place was electric. Fans from Burke County and Carver were loud, especially when the players had their intros. And just from the start, when Carver went up 7-0, the big kickoff return by Braylon Jakes, and I just felt that the energy was going into Carver's favor. I seriously, I admit, Thrift, I thought that this game was going to be a little bit tighter than the games past that Carver against Pierce County and Appleton County. It was 7-7. Carver did kick a field goal. He was 10-7, but the play of the game, in my opinion, the pick six by Zay Billingsley to make it 17-7.
Yeah, that changed it. We'll talk about the plays of the game and stuff like that here in just a moment. We are presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC, Buffalo Rock, Gordy Eye Care, and CVCC. Got a great show for you lined up here tonight, as we have Richard just got off calling a Pacelli game against East Coweta. Great job by the Lady Vikings. But we got a great show in store for you here tonight that we are excited about, Richard. As for one, we're going to be talking about what just happened last night with the Carver Tigers winning the state championship. We talk about Columbus High's great performance against in the state championship against Southeast Bullock on Monday. Then we have Unsolicited Hot Take. We're giving our college football playoff predictions. We're talking Falcons have a new starting quarterback, and are these Hawks for real? And then we end it with Keeping Up with CSU Athletics. Richard talks with Matt Hauser, the girls coach. I talk with Coach Robert Moore, and both of these teams have a chance to win a Peach Belt Conference championship this year. They are two of the top three teams in their conference, and cannot wait to hear from both of them. You're going to stay tuned, and they got a big game coming up this Friday and Saturday, and we'll talk about what we got for the rest of the week. Well, let's go talk about yesterday. I just had a feeling, the way I saw them in warm-ups, the way they came out of the tunnel, that this team was on a mission. And I said on the pregame show, which I did with Rick Beach, shout out to Rick Beach of Georgia Alabama Sports Live in Kudzu. We did it right outside Mercedes-Benz. I said 29-10. They had 31 at halftime. So I thought Burke County would keep it somewhat close, and then Carver would just run away from it. No, Carver dominated from start to finish. And I'm with you, Rich. It first started Burke County turnover, and then, a Braylon Jakes awesome return that led to a very short drive and a touchdown for Carver. They go up 7-0. Then they turn the ball over on a punt return. Popcorn Tarver had the ball. He was trying to pick it up off the ground, ended up staying on the ground. He goes forward, and Burke County gets it. They score on a long-distance touchdown, 7-7. Carver comes back and kicks a field goal to make it 10-7. They had a touchdown, Braylon Jakes, but was called back because of an illegal touching call. Kind of questionable on that. We were right there in front of that call when it was being made. And they kick off. Burke County gets it. And in the next play, pick six from Billingsley. And I heard a question from Jack Patterson and Tony Reese. That was a film room play. That was, hey, and Rick Beach asked Justin Newman, was that a film room play? That was being prepared, knowing what was coming. And once that happened, the game was over with. It went to 24-7, 31-7. They did turn the ball over to start the second half. Burke County scored to make it 31-14. Then Carver scored 21 straight points. Matthew Mungan, unbelievable. Player of the game, 4 touchdowns. This guy has turned into, I think, the top quarterback in 2A this year. Man, what a progression and revelation. Coach Pierre Coffey instilled the confidence in this young man, but he was fantastic. And all in all, just had a fun time. DJ Jones was there, obviously, with Sports Visions. We got to hang out with him. We got to talk to Jeff Battles, who was there. Jack Patterson, Tony Reese, Rico Mitchell, WRBL, WTVM. Everybody was in attendance for this on the field to watch Carver cement the first state championship for the public schools. Remember, private, Pacelli won in 2022. But for public schools in Muskogee County, we have not had a state champion since Carver 2007, then Shaw before that in 2000. And I think this Carver team is one of the most dominant teams in the history of our great county. And, man, they cemented it with a dominant 52-14 win.
Yeah, and by the way, Calvary won one for the Gaps in 2020.
Yeah, and Calvary did win one, too. I keep forgetting to mention Calvary that won one, too. But go ahead, Richard.
First GHSA championship for the city of Columbus since 2007. That historic team coached by Dale McGee that had Isaiah Crowell, Jarvis Jones, Jarmon Fortson, such great players. This Carver team from start to finish, they had just a fantastic game. I thought the highlight of the game was we were on the sideline and, we're really close to the action. That bread basket catch by KJ Miles on the sideline, tippy-toeing and getting a big play. And then you ended up being on GPB Sports. You and Rick on the sideline made the TV. So that was pretty cool. KJ Miles, 3 touchdown receptions. Braylon Jakes with a touchdown.
Yep.
It was such a great game from start to finish. I actually thought that the physicality of the Carver defense set the tone. When you're talking about Jatavius Wisdom and Torius Watts, A.J. Wilson, those players just physical at the line of scrimmage. Tristan Givens, who got off his block, didn't have to rush the passer because Burke County likes to run the football, but he was able to beat his man off the block. I was listening to – I rewatched the broadcast on GPB Sports, and by the way, Matt Stewart and Rusty Manziel did a phenomenal job. John Nelson, Hannah Gooden with the pregame show. Our own Jack Patterson from WRBL was part of the pregame show. He did a fantastic job. I thought that GPB Sports did just a fantastic job with the broadcast. And then, of course, John Nelson presenting the trophy to Coach Pierre Coffey on the field. We were right there, and it was just a great moment just for the city of Columbus, a great moment for the Carver Tigers and all their alumni and all the players that played for the Carver Tigers that have played at the next level and gone on to do great things in their career.
Yeah, and looking at this Carver team and this playoff run, putting over 40 points a game, giving up less than 7, they have shown and been the epitome for one, I think the best defensive team we've ever had. And then offensively catching up. This is why it's the most deepest, complete team I've seen in a long time. And I put this Carver Tigers team up with anyone. We're going to drop our final rankings and kind of give a year in review of high school football on Sunday's show. But I promise you this, I don't think there's going to be any disagreement. I don't care that
there isn't.
7A and Carver's in 2A. Carver's going to be the number 1 team. This won't even be a shock. And then we'll have the rest of the teams. You'll see those rankings on the Georgia Alabama Sports Live show on Sunday. All in all, thank you to Marvin James and the GHSA. It was a great they were great hosts. The Mercedes-Benz was excellent. Great job by the Columbus community coming and showing out. It was a fantastic showing, had a ton of people in attendance. And, man, history was made. Coach Pierre Coffey, you can put him in there now with Charles Flowers, Dale McGee. This guy is going to go down as one of the greatest coaches in our great city, and I don't think he's done. I think he can get multiple more. And the thing is, this team is full of underclassmen, Rich. They're going to be right back in it again next year. Good luck to everyone in 2A, because we may have a dynasty on our hands. This was, again, aside from that Harris County game, 15-6. And I think if they played again, Carver would win by 2 touchdowns. Since that moment, this Carver has been a completely different team. They get a bye. They came back. You called the game against Northside. Northside was undefeated. Carver was undefeated. I mean, Carver had 1 loss. Many people thought Northside's going to take it to them. Carver obliterated them, shut them out 26-0. And since that moment, they have just been on a tear. Justin Newman, who was the assistant coach of the year, according to Score Atlanta and us at Georgia Alabama Sports Live. What a fantastic job. Him and his dad. I saw his dad, who also helped Scott Newman. He had his son in attendance. Just an overall great family affair. The offensive coordinator who dialed it up perfectly. And then the head man in charge, and Pierre Coffey. This was a Carver moment. Carver deserved it. Everyone in the community should be supporting them. And we got to call several games, Richard. We got to do the Spencer Carver game. We did the Harris County Carver. We did Hardaway Carver. We did Shaw Carver. We did Northside versus Carver. We did Sumter County versus Carver. We were in attendance for Appling. We streamed 6 to 7 games. We covered them 2 different times in the Final Four and the state championship. We adopted them as our team, like we do all 16 schools that we cover. What a season, and what a legacy Coach Coffey and this team has cemented in the history books for Muscogee County and our area with a 14-1 record and state champions.
The school on the hill, just a fantastic showing from the Carver fans. We got to talk to some of them after the game, and the city of Columbus gave them a warm welcome on their long bus ride.
Late at night, there was a ton of people there. We
didn't get people there waiting for them. Yeah,
we weren't there because we were able to get a post-game interview and do live on the field. So I felt like we didn't have to be there in attendance for that. We got to see the kids and get their reaction immediately. Yeah. But for all those that were in attendance and showed out, man, that's why we do what we do.
Oh, yes.
Because we want everyone in the community to know about these great teams, these great coaches, these great players. And Carver winning this, man, I was so excited. I was cheering. Me, you, Rick, DJ, Tony, Jack, Rico. Normally when we're covering games, especially like for the SEC, you stay neutral. You don't say anything. When you're covering games, it's like Spencer and Carver, you keep it neutral. There was no neutrality in this one.
Nope.
We were cheering for Carver from start to finish. I was giving high fives to Patrick Butler and Pierre Coffey on the sideline. I was telling Justin Newman 1 more quarter to go. I was the biggest fan, and we appreciate them allowing us a part of the ride. Thank you to Jeff Battles for allowing us to be a part of the ride, and a great performance from Matthew Mungan and the dark side defense. Wow. Jacoby Casson was great. Braylon Jakes, how about his career? As goes down one of the greatest receivers in the history of the Carver Tiger program. I can't wait to see him playing at the next level. Everything that young man had to overcome. He literally is my motivation. I'm not motivating him as a grown man. He's motivating me. He's motivating you, Richard, seeing his story, overcoming everything that he had to. And this young man still giving his all and help leading his team to a state championship. That is what high school sports is about. I'm pretty fired up about this because I love that young man. I love his family, and I am so happy for him. I'm so happy for the Carver Tigers community, champions, and we all are embracing this championship team. I saw several people in the community today. In the community today, Richard, out and about. I saw them with a Carver on. Go Tigers, team on the hill.
I just want to know, when are they going to put those signs up when we get ready to go into the city? Because they deserve it.
Oh, I'm getting me a championship shirt or hoodie.
Oh, yeah.
I am.
We got to get the championship shirt. So many storylines from this game. You're talking about a junior quarterback in Matthew Mungan. Nobody's talking about this 6'5", and he threw 4 touchdown passes, and now he get put on notice on the state spotlight. The state of Georgia is going to know about Matthew Munja, and I think that he picked up maybe an extra star in the recruiting class for next year because he is going to play at the next level. But there is a player I do want to talk about because I covered this guy for the past 2 years at Russell County, Kelston Popcorn Tarver. He got the nickname Popcorn while he was at Russell County, making an impact as a freshman. Now I know Russell County had a lot of injuries. They were overcoming a lot. And plus playing at the 6A level in Alabama, he was going to possibly be the starting running back this year, but he just wanted a change, goes to Carver, and we knew this kid was special. And now he's got a ring. I think that he really showcased his talent. And not only that backfield with Jacoby Castlin and Popcorn Tarver, both rushing for over 1,200 yards. He did score a touchdown in the state championship game. I'm happy for him. I'm happy for his dad. I've known this family for a while now while I was the PA announcer. And actually, when I was calling games, he was a freshman because I've been associated with Russell County for the past 4 seasons now. But it was that first year he was a freshman, I was calling games on CTV Beam. And I remember I got to call some of his highlights. Same with last year on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. We called that game against Valley. I knew this kid was special. I was just happy to see that, he had a different scenery because sometimes kids need to have a different scenery. And now he's got a ring. I think that is going to be special. Thrift, I do want to know, when is going to be the ring ceremony? Because I kind of feel like you probably agree with me that we probably need to live stream that on Georgia Alabama Sports Live.
We did for Corey Black. We definitely will do that for Carver. But, man, these guys, they work their tail off.
They deserve it.
Where they're at. The linebacking core of Hodge, Kalen Hodge, Jatavius Wisdom, to Watts, and then Zay Billingsley.
AJ Wilson.
AJ Wilson, that core group, okay? That core group led by Patrick Butler, who was a all-world high school, all-by-city linebacker at Carver back in his day, played at Auburn. He and the strength and conditioning coach, he's also linebacking coach. That's the best linebacking core I have ever seen. They were lights out, and you saw Billingsley had the pick 6 that kind of cemented it. Seeing that on the field, they were faster, bigger, stronger, and this team was full. They were just oozing out confidence, and it showed, and it was led by their head coach, Pierre Coffey. Congratulations again to the Carver Tigers as they win 52-14 and are your 2024 GHSA 2A state champions. Unbelievable.
I do want to mention one more player because he did have a touchdown run. He had a touchdown in the championship game. Running back Jameel Williams, number 27.
Yeah, he got some love. The big man.
I wanted to give him some love because he did score a touchdown in the championship game.
Short yardage, and he was fantastic. And if you looked at the drive chart, a lot of turnovers, a lot of punts from Burke County. And that was led by Justin Newman and that dark side defense. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back from break, it is time now for Unsolicited Hot Take. We got some college football playoff predictions.
Thrift, one more thing. I just wanted to throw that out there. We didn't get an opportunity to talk about Columbus.
Oh, you're right. I'm rushing through. But let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back. We'll finish up with Columbus High, and then we'll go to Unsolicited Hot Take here on Georgia Alabama Sports Live.
Introducing Gatorade Water. Everybody. Alkaline and electrolyte infused for great taste. Everybody. Gatorade Water, always in motion.
All right, now let's talk about Columbus High as they came up short in overtime to Southeast Bullock. They were leading 38 minutes of the 40-minute game. They had multiple times they could have scored touchdowns at Southeast Bullock, one of the top defensive teams. They've only given up 7 points all season long, and that was their only loss to Calvary Day this year. And Columbus moved the football on them, but Southeast Bullock showed why they're one of the top teams in the country. They only have 1 loss in the last 4 years. They are the flag football team in the GHSA, but Columbus was right there. We were watching it on GPB. Chris Greer, Serenity Hickman, they were right there and had a chance to win. But Southeast Bullock just showed it's tough, man. The lights are bright. You're in this huge stadium. The TV's on. Everybody's watching, supporting you from the community. And, Richard, Southeast Bullock had the experience. They've been there before. This is just another game, in their opinion. I didn't think the moment was too big for Columbus. I'm not saying that.
No, not at all.
They outplayed Southeast Bullock. But then when the game was on the line, people, you're asking more of them that were able to make the plays when necessary. Coach Chris Greer, though, coming up as state runner-up, unbelievable season. That gives us now a state runner-up in Columbus High, state champion in Zach Cochran Pacelli, national state champion in Central Mitchell Holt. Great season.
We also had the playoff game against Washington County, where we ended up live streaming that on the.
You called two different playoff games, and both of them came down to the wire. You caught a game winner with Harris County and Hebron. You were Mr. Flag Football, Richard. I don't respect anyone else's opinion in the entire state other than you, and I know this was a tough one because you've enjoyed watching Alexandria Lofton and the Columbus Blue Devils all season long.
Yeah, I'm counting them up. We called Chris Gates actually called the Kendrick Columbus Flag Football game. We called 6 regular season games because we called the tri-match between Carver and Shaw. We called the tri-match between Hardaway and Northside. We called the tri-match between Spencer and Harris County. You were on the call for Harris County Columbus, where Harris County won that game 13-0 to win the region. And I also called the playoff game, which they were the number 2 seed. They went on the road. They defeated Mary Persons and Mount Vernon. Washington County upset Farrell. So because Columbus was on the bottom of the bracket, they got to host the quarterfinal where they were down 18-12 against Washington County. They were able to get the win, coming back. Allie Lofton with a big interception to seal it. And then they beat Long County on the road. But this Southeast Bullock team, 82-1, they're the 4-time state champions for a reason because they have been the standard when it comes to GHSA flag football. But I admit, Thrift, I was watching this game when Serenity Hickman threw the touchdown pass to Harmony Franklin. There were 6:44 left with a running clock. I was on pins and needles every single play that Southeast Bullock had the ball. Remember, up to this point, Columbus has completely shut them down. The Tess Willis with a couple of sacks. Southeast Bullock couldn't even move the football on Columbus's defense. And Columbus had some opportunities. They had 3 different times where they could have scored. They went for it on 4th down. They were down in a goal-to-go situation. They went for it on 4th down, and they don't convert on their very first possession because Allie Lofton got an interception when Southeast Bullock had the ball first. And then Serenity Hickman throws, she was trying to make a play. There was about a minute to go in the first half. Southeast Bullock ended up getting an interception. Columbus gets the ball to start the second half. But when they were up 6-0 and there was 6:44 left to go, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking they could actually do this. I'm thinking we could see Columbus win the state championship. But Southeast Bullock has been there 3 times already. They know what to do when the situation calls for it because championship teams step up when it matters the most. And Southeast Bullock made the plays necessary to tie the game. They go for the try. They don't get it. So it's 6-6 going to overtime. And I felt in that overtime game, the overtime rules state that each team gets the ball for a possession and then they have an opportunity to get the try. I thought that Southeast Bullock just all the momentum shifted to Southeast Bullock in the overtime, and that's hard to overcome. You get the ball first.
Right.
Now, okay, you scored a touchdown and you get the try. You're up 13-6. That put a lot of pressure on Columbus to try to not only tie the game with a touchdown and a try, but to have to turn around and play a second overtime. Southeast Bullock was able to make the plays necessary to win the game.
And it was a good one. We enjoyed watching it. Okay, great season for the Columbus High Blue Devils as they are your state runner-up in the 2024 GHSA Division I Flag Football State Championship. And looking forward to seeing Coach Greer continue building his program, winning it in 18 and just done a great job. Him, Zach Cochran, Mitchell Holt, they've been flag bearers along with Jeff Battles for flag football. And we're glad that they were able to at least make it to the state championship game. All right, we'll take another quick break. We'll show you why Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC is a place for your last-minute shopping. When we come back, time for Unsolicited Hot Take here on Georgia Alabama Sports Live.
We're hammering down high prices at Glenn Smith Chevrolet in Opelika. New Chevy Silverado 4x4 crew cabs discounted up to $14,000 off. Brand new 2025 Chevy Equinox compact SUV with high-tech features discounted up to $4,000 off. Enjoy your holidays with no payments until February. Choose from over 500 new and used on the lot or on the way. GlennSmith.com. Get ready to smile.
That's Glenn Smith with a Y.com and see all the inventory, over 600 cars and trucks on the lot today that you can go and take a test drive. That is GlennSmith.com to check up all the inventory. It's Unsolicited Hot Take with Thrift Barringer presented by Sports Visions, and I got Richard Holdridge this time with me, and we got some college football playoff. We got the Falcons, and we got Devondre Campbell, who is Richard's favorite player.
Twitter.
And he looks up to him, and he thinks Devondre Campbell is one of the best leaders in the NFL right now. And I know, Richard, you're trying to buy his jersey. We'll talk about that. And then
the world.
And then we're also talking about the NBA Cup and then the Atlanta Hawks. So let's talk college football playoff. All right, in this first round, we got Clemson, Texas. And we talked last week with Mike G about who were some of my favorite matches and stuff when doing Unsolicited Hot Take. I said the best equal match, okay, between each team. Which match has equal talent between two teams? Tennessee, Ohio State. The most entertaining with the most stories? I think that's Notre Dame, Indiana. He thought Texas and Clemson, because Clemson could be pulling off an upset. I just don't feel like Clemson is going to be a team that is going to win at Texas and shouldn't even be in the playoff right now. All right, so let's talk about your most entertaining matchup.
My most entertaining matchup is Tennessee and Ohio State. I think that Ohio State has had a history of not playing well against SEC opponents. You just look at the national championship against Florida in 2006, the national championship against LSU in 2007.
They've only beat one SEC team in a playoff format or national championship, and that was 2014. Alabama was the last time.
That's right. Cardell Jones.
They've won one game. I'm with you on that Tennessee-Ohio State. So is that the one you're picking as your most entertaining? If you had to pick which one and you had to sit and watch, you were made to watch a game, you're picking Tennessee-Ohio State.
Absolutely. That's going to be the most entertaining game is Tennessee and Ohio State.
And let's talk about that game. Well, I guess we'll start with that one first. I think out of all the matches, these two teams about as equal as they can get. Dylan Sampson is the best running back in the SEC going against a really improved Ohio State defense. I can't wait to see how this one's going to play out, man. Quarterback from Ohio State.
Will Howard.
Yeah, I know. But Will Howard, we'll see how he's going to play in this moment, because last time we saw him against Michigan, he threw a dud of a performance, and this Ohio State team did. Everyone's talking about the fact that if Ohio State loses, Ryan Day's getting fired. So I'm leaning Ohio State because I think that they have a chance to make it. What about you?
I think Tennessee pulls off the upset in the horseshoe. I'm just a firm believer in the up-tempo offense of Josh Heupel, and I love Nico Iamaleava as a quarterback. Tennessee's just got a lights-out defense, and Tennessee has been battle-tested. This is the SEC. I feel like even though Ohio State has the pieces, they have a very good, skill players. I think that Tennessee is going to match up with Ohio State a little bit better. And I actually factor in Ohio State's record against the SEC. That's why I think Tennessee is going to win, because I think that Ohio State just doesn't play well against SEC teams. You mentioned about 2014 in the college football playoff. I mean, that was it. I mean, think about they should have beat Georgia in the semifinals 2 years ago. Marvin Harrison Jr. gets hurt. If he doesn't get hurt, they win that game. And we're not talking about Ryan Day losing his job. We're talking about Ryan Day as a national championship head coach.
Yeah, because they would have smoked
They would have smoked TCU.
They've had a lot of balls that didn't bounce their way. If Nico Imalava plays a great game, I think he's the X factor, because I think Ohio State's going to try to take away the running game of Tennessee, knowing that Sampson opens up the pass. So it's a lot's going to be on Nico. If he can make the necessary plays, I can see Tennessee, because this defense of Tennessee is not the normal defense we've seen in years past. This defense really won them several games, including that Florida one. I can see this being a low-scoring affair. I'm going to lean Ohio State, because I think Ryan Day is coaching for his job. I don't think, on the flip side, Josh Heupel is. I think that Tennessee fans are even happy they're in the college football playoff. I'm going to say Ohio State wins this 21-17, 24-21, low-scoring game, coming down to the wire. And with it being at the Horseshoe, I'm taking the Buckeyes over Tennessee. But I would not be surprised if it starts unraveling, Tennessee winning this by a touchdown or two, because Ohio State seems like the team, two front runners, where everything starts going bad, especially knowing that the season's going to be done after this. Their coach is probably going to be fired. Could it get bad? I'm not saying that, because I think Ryan Day and this team has had a lot of motivation. They were one of my teams to make it to the national championship and even win it. I think they're going to be fine. They're going to win this game by 3. It's going to be the best game of the weekend.
I hope so. I mean, the sports fan in me wants Tennessee to win, because we've already seen Oregon and Ohio State before. We knew that this could be a possibility. Like, we could possibly see Texas and Georgia again. We could possibly, see Ohio State and Oregon. And I knew that the College Football Playoff Committee was afraid of this. They didn't want to match up, Texas and Georgia in the second round. They wanted to put Texas as the 5 seed rather than the 6 seed, because they don't want to see Texas and Georgia again, not until maybe the national championship. So.
No, I agree with you on that, Richard. So that's going to be a fun one. The most entertaining game, in my opinion, is Notre Dame and Indiana. I'll let you start there with that one.
Yeah, Battle of Indiana. I mean, we normally don't get a matchup like this. I think this Indiana team matches up well with Notre Dame. Now, Notre Dame's quarterback, Riley Leonard, he's going to try to make the plays necessary. I think that Notre Dame's more physical, but Indiana has really been the story of the college football season, with Kirk Cignetti, the former James Madison coach, gets a big extension. And, Indiana, remember, they started off up 7-0 against Ohio State in that drive. And, remember, they had some special teams blunders and the wheels came off. But I think that for the state of Indiana, I don't think home field advantage is going to really matter for Notre Dame fans, because Indiana fans are going to find a way to get into this game. This is huge for the state of Indiana. And I think that it's going to be a very exciting game. But I think that Notre Dame comes out on top, and they'll play Georgia in the Sugar Bowl.
When looking at Indiana's schedule right now, Curtis Rourke has been he's been a nice story. 27 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Ellison, the running back, got over 811 yards. They ran for over 2,000 yards as a team. They are a complete offense. They put up over 40 points a game, but they played one ranked team all year long, Richard, and that was Ohio State. And they did beat Michigan at home by 5, but the one ranked team they played, Ohio State, they lost 38-15. On the flip side, though, if you looked at Notre Dame, they did beat an A&M team who finished 8-4. They beat a ranked at the time Louisville team who finished 8-4. They beat a Navy team who finished 9-3, and they beat Army and blew them out. They also beat USC and Florida State, Virginia, Stanford. They didn't have a tough schedule either. So it's not like they have the upper hand in playing tougher competition. I really think this is going to be a toss-up. I also think Indiana knows they're their little brother right now, and there'd be nothing more. This would be like their national championship. I don't think in their mind, Kirk Cignetti, maybe he does. Maybe he truly believes they got a chance to win a national title. I don't think they have a chance. And if I'm an Indiana fan, I'm treating this game as the national championship. And if I beat Notre Dame and I finish 12-1, I don't even care what happens against Georgia. Even if I get beat 65-7 like TCU did, I'm still thinking I had a hell of a season. I beat my in-state rival at their field in the first year of the college football expanded playoff. Yeah, I'm going to pick Indiana. And I'm going to pick Indiana because I think Notre Dame is the better team, but I think Indiana has the better coach. And I think Cignetti makes the necessary adjustments. I think they get off to a hot start, and I think they win this game 38-31, 34-27. It's going to be a shootout, but give me Indiana over Notre Dame. I saw somebody from ESPN that I thought was the biggest buffoon thing I've ever seen, that Notre Dame was going to beat Indiana and then beat Georgia and play in the national title. I want to know how these guys get credentials, why ESPN says that their opinion is more valuable than anyone else's. I can find some Joe Schmuck in South Bend, Indiana, to tell me Notre Dame's going to upset Georgia. Let's be realistic. Nobody thinks that's going to happen. I'm taking Indiana with the upset. Where are you going, Richard? I think Rourke throws for 3 or 4 touchdowns, but I think it's the hot start. I think they get up 21-7, 17-0, 14-0. Indiana, Notre Dame makes a comeback, but Indiana ends up holding on to win a close game.
I think Notre Dame wins this game in a close game, but I really want to know what the model says about this matchup. I try to see who's favored. I try to see like the projection on who is going to win this game. The bettors are going to say that Notre Dame is the favorite because they are the higher seed. But I think the Indiana is going to surprise some people. But I think Notre Dame wins in a close one.
SMU, Penn State. Give me Penn State by 2 touchdowns. I don't even really care about breaking it down. I don't even think SMU should have made it. Now, when I say that, compared to who else could have made it, yeah, I mean, you're like, really flip a coin to see, is it SMU, is it Alabama? Alabama shouldn't have lost 3 games. I just would have preferred seeing Penn State, Alabama at Penn State. That's just me. But I think Penn State wins this, and I think that Penn State, if they don't make it to the semifinal, you got to start thinking, is it ever going to happen for them? Because right now they have the easiest path to the semifinal. They have a team that's loaded full of, NFL talent from across the board. If he can't do it this year, and Franklin, then he may not ever do it. So I'm thinking Penn State. And I know Mike G said he thinks Clemson may upset Texas. Texas is a fraud. Their biggest game of the season was against Georgia, and they got beat both times. I think Texas handles Clemson. I think it's a close game in the first half, but give me Texas winning that one 24-14, 28-17, something around there, 31-17. Give me Texas and Penn State. So that would leave me Oregon, Ohio State rematch. Sign me up for that one. Georgia, Indiana, contrast and styles, and you're playing in the Sugar Bowl. That's a lot of speed out there, and Indiana probably likes playing in a dome, but so does Georgia. Penn State and Boise State, blah. I probably will watch maybe 5 minutes of that game. And then Arizona State and Texas. What do you, and Richard, are you along the lines similar?
I am, similar, except I got Notre Dame and Georgia, and I got Tennessee and Oregon. That's just a more favorable matchup because I've already seen Oregon and Ohio State. I want to see Notre Dame and Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, like flashback to 1980 as a rematch of that national championship.
Yeah, DJ will love every second of that. Last time he'll probably go cover it for Sports Visions. Last time he was there on that field representing the Georgia Bulldogs, he was wearing a uniform and winning the 1980 national championship. All right, my national championship, Richard, is going to be Oregon and Georgia. I'm going chalk. I'm taking those 2 teams. I think Georgia smokes Indiana. If they do play Notre Dame, like you said, they win either way. They then play Penn State because I think Penn State beats Boise State. I'm taking Georgia over Penn State. And give me Georgia and Oregon in the national championship. I think Oregon beats Ohio State and beats Texas. And give me the Bulldogs as your national champion.
I've got Texas beating Georgia in the national championship because it's hard to beat a team 3 times. I think that Gunnar Stockton is going to play against Notre Dame, and I think that Georgia plays Penn State in the semifinal. And I think that Georgia, it has no problem. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. I think they beat Notre Dame and they beat Penn State to get to the national championship. I think that Carson Beck's going to be healthy to play in the national championship, but Carson Beck is going to go back to Carson Beck, making mistakes. Still, he's the better, NFL-ready quarterback. He can make some big-time throws, but he also makes big-time mistakes. Gunnar Stockton gives you a different dynamic. I think that Kirby Smart, if Carson Beck is healthy, he's going to start him in the national championship. And the reason why I got Texas winning is because they've already played Georgia twice, and they're going to figure out how to beat Georgia and win the national championship. I know that's not going to sit well with Georgia fans, but I really don't think this Georgia team stacks up with the 2021 team that was just an all-timer team or the 2022 team. Because I think that part of that national championship run was the magic of Stetson Bennett. I believe that Stetson Bennett put the team on his shoulders and willed that team to two national championships.
But I want to tell you right now, this Georgia team knows how to win, and I honestly think that Gunnar Stockton's going to come in and make the necessary plays, but this defense is what's going to keep them in games. I don't think Penn State has enough to get past this defense, and Oregon's really the only team, and then Beck may be back by then. Even if not, if Gunnar Stockton's got 2 games of wins over Notre Dame or Indiana and then Penn State, I think he's going to be oozing with confidence to even make the change, keep Gunnar in, and then you got the quarterback potentially for next year under the Bulldogs. Can't wait to see how the college football playoff
can't wait.
All right, can't wait to see those games play out. That's Friday and Saturday. And let's talk about a few other things, and I want to kind of wrap up what we got for the rest of this week, and then we got 2 great interviews here on the Georgia Alabama Sports Live show, Richard. Let's first talk the NBA Cup. I didn't watch 1 second of it. For one, we got home late from last night, so I didn't really watch it, but I saw Giannis completely dominated the Thunder. The Bucks are back on a tear, but I just don't think the NBA is struggling right now with their ratings. They're having a tough time, people caring about the league. But one team I do care about is the Atlanta Hawks. And even though they did lose on Saturday to the Bucks, I think this Hawks team has the nucleus and the foundation to be a top 4 seed in the East. I even see maybe them being one of those very what's the word I'm looking for? Aggressive teams at the NBA trade deadline. I love Jalen Johnson. I love Okongwu and Capella. Trae Young's playing within the system. Dyson Daniels is great. I just cannot wait to see the rest of this season for the Atlanta Hawks. They're actually playing the Spurs here tonight. But, man, how about the Hawks? Great job by them. Beating the Knicks at the Knicks. I like where this Hawks team is at. And I think that they are a team. I don't know if they're going to win the East. I'm not putting them in Cleveland, Boston territory, even though they beat both those teams. I'm not ready to say they're going to beat them in 7. And I don't think really anyone in the East, even a good Cleveland team, can take down Boston. I think they're the prohibitive favorite. But if Giannis keeps playing the way he is, put them in my top 4. It's going to be Cleveland, Boston, Milwaukee, and the Hawks. Those are my top 4 teams in the East right now. The West, completely up for grabs. I don't even know where to go.
Well, they are playing the Spurs right now as this show is airing, and I think that they end up winning tonight. But, Trae Young leading the league with 12 assists, the leading scorer, but he's not doing as much. He's only averaging 21 points a game. Normally, when Trae does too much, he'll average close to 26, 27 a night. But he's got some complementary pieces, starting with Jalen Johnson, who I think he is an all-star. I think that the Hawks will get 2 all-stars named to the all-star team. DeAndre Hunter is not even starting. And coming off the bench, averaging 19 points a game, he is a candidate for 6th man of the year. Dyson Daniels is a candidate for most improved player of the year. He's averaging 13.4 points a game. The depth, you got Bogey coming off the bench when he's healthy. Okongwu and Capella, it doesn't matter who's starting. And I forgot to mention that the overall number 1 draft pick in the NBA is a very good contributor, Zachary Rizachet. He's a pretty good contributor. I know this rookie class has not been a strong rookie class like in the past, but he's still averaging 10.9 points a game. They have depth. I think the Hawks are going to at least get to the 2nd round. I think that if they go up against like a Boston or a Cleveland or maybe even a Miami, because you know that Jimmy Butler is going to be playoff Butler. He's averaging 18 a game. You know that bumps up to 24 points when he gets into the playoffs. That depth taxes and Jimmy Butler just flipping the switch in the playoffs. I mean, that's just what happens if he stays healthy. That's a big question mark. The East is not as deep as the West. If you look at the West, we might have teams that don't even make it into the play-in game that might have winning records.
The Los Angeles Lakers. And by the way, I am not going to be one of those that's going to talk about LeBron James at all. But I can't wait to see that Christmas Day games and seeing how the rest of the season plays out. But I am on and buying all stock in this Atlanta Hawks roster, and the future is definitely bright now with him. And we're going to wrap Unsolicited Hot Take segment up with Michael Penix being named the starter the rest of the season for the Atlanta Falcons.
About time.
I'm literally about to bust a blood vessel in my hand. I'm clapping my hand so hard right now. This should have happened weeks ago. Should have happened after the bye. He has thrown 1 touchdown and 9 interceptions in the last 4 games. He looked horrible against the Raiders. The Raiders just suck. Desmond Ridder even had a chance to beat him on a Hail Mary. Jesus. And that would have been the epitome of the Atlanta Falcons. The crazy thing is, Rick, Washington's got a tough schedule. I don't think they win the division. I think Tampa Bay wins out, and they're going to finish 11-6. But they can still Tampa Bay can win out and will go 11-6. But Atlanta can still make the playoffs because they play Washington. And Washington still has to play Philadelphia this year. I mean, for the rest of the year. Washington, that's at least 1 loss. And if the Falcons win at Washington, that will give them 2 losses. That means they would be 10-7. The Falcons would be 10-7. And the Falcons would get in over the head-to-head. They still have a chance. And they still have a chance if Tampa Bay loses and they both finish 10-7 because they beat Tampa Bay both times. I think this guy's going to come in and play good football. But even if he doesn't, and we make the playoffs, do we think the Falcons are a legitimate team to win the NFC Championship? No, they're not on the level of Green Bay, Philly, the Rams, and Detroit. Heck, even Minnesota. Those 5 teams are head and shoulder above everyone else, and then Tampa Bay will be competitive. They may even, because they'll be hosting, they may even win a playoff game. I don't see them winning a championship. But Philly, Detroit, and the Rams, those 3 teams, I think have a chance to win the whole dadgum thing and make it to the Super Bowl. So if the Falcons don't make it this year, I don't care. Build for the future. Glad he's playing the last 3 games of the season. Hopefully, he gets on a hot streak, and then you're going to start wondering why you even signed Cousins. Terry Fontenot thinks he's smarter than what he is, and don't even get me started on him, because even if this does happen, why did you sign Kirk Cousins? Why did you sign him? If you knew after you signed him that something was going on and that made you draft Michael Penix, and you're like, disbelieve in me, I'm smarter than everyone, I'm doing this, I'm the smartest man in the room. Why did you just sign a man that went 1 touchdown, 9 interception, has not overcame his injury very well, and he looks like a shell of himself? You pay that man $100 million guaranteed. No, I don't have a thought for that, Richard.
No, I don't get it.
And I'm sick of it, and I'm glad they're starting Penix.
Look, Thrift.
And they play the lowly Giants. So this is the perfect time to start Michael Penix.
Perfect time. You got so many weapons. You got a top 5 offensive line. You have Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier. You have Drake London, Kyle Pitts, who they don't even utilize. Darnell Mooney, who's been a pretty good acquisition as a number 2 receiver for the Falcons. Kirk Cousins has got everything in front of him, and he still loses games for the Falcons, and the defense is actually pretty good. So this is the no-brainer to start Michael Penix Jr. because right now they're 7-7, and the Buccaneers are 8-6. The Buccaneers are playing the Cowboys next. You're kind of hoping that the Buccaneers maybe loses to the Cowboys and the Falcons are going to have to win out. I think that game against Washington on the road, that's going to be a test to see if Michael Penix Jr. is the guy, because I think that he could beat the Giants. If he beats the Commanders, we're looking at he's ready for the spotlight. And rookie quarterbacks this year are actually doing pretty good. I mean, look at Bo Nix, look at Jaden Daniels.
And it makes you think, Rich, if you started him all year, where would your team be? Because you've lost some games that you shouldn't have. 1 touchdown and 9 interceptions. Bro, that is about as Tommy DeVito. I'm trying to think of like the worst quarterbacks. Dan Orlovsky,
Tim
Tim
Boyle.
Boyle. I mean, some of the worst quarterbacks in the history.
Nathan Peterman.
Peterman, 5 interceptions. I mean, Matt Schaub in his later years. I mean, come on, man. This was terrible. This was atrocious. And glad they're moving on from him. And let's hope the Falcons, they're going to get a win against the Giants. If they can beat Washington, they ended against the Saints at home, 10-7. They're going to need some help. Obviously, Washington's going to have to lose another game because Washington's 9-5 right now. They're going to have to lose 2 to get in. And then Tampa Bay's going to have to lose 1. But I think, crazy things have happened. And I don't fully believe that this is a juggernaut Washington team. Like the Falcons can't go in there and win. Heck, it was the Commanders needed a Hail Mary to beat a 4-10 Bears team a few weeks ago. So that started their 8-game losing streak, by the way, Richard, was that game against Washington. So that went down to the wire.
Yeah.
I did want to end.
It's actually the Buccaneers who have to play the Saints in Week 18. The Falcons play the Panthers.
Well, Panthers. I knew it was either the Saints or Panthers. Either way, Falcons have a easy schedule and winnable schedule. They're going to need help to get in, but I'm more interested in seeing what is Michael Penix. I don't care about wins and losses. I don't care about getting in this playoff. I do want to get in. It's nice to get in, maybe get an upset, but you're not winning it all this year. I want to know, is this the right guy? Because if he looks bad, Fontenot's got to go. I mean, he should have been fired yesterday, and then you're trying to find out, can you salvage Penix and can you salvage the talent on this roster that was promising at the beginning of the year? And the final thing we're going to talk about here on Unsolicited, Devondre Campbell. He is a joke. He should never be allowed to put on another uniform. The most unprofessional, not a leader move I've ever seen. Everybody that has called him out and called him a sucker for this, for not staying in, that is, I can't even put into words as a former athlete to not even go in the game and then walk off the field like that. Every one of his teammates, a lot of them, George Kittle said he would have thrown hands with the guy. So that was a crappy move. But I'm going to let you talk about it, Richard, as a guy that supports the 49ers. Y'all have had the year from hell, had to deal with a lot of injuries. You're not making the playoffs this year now that you lost to the Rams. Rams are in. But give me your thought on what happened with Campbell.
Don't need him. He's a quitter. Since Dre Greenlaw came back from that injury, I mean, I'm okay with Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner as your linebackers. You never really needed him. He was just a filler guy because Dre Greenlaw was hurt the entire season. Bye. Hope that somebody signs you because it ain't going to be with the 49ers. This has been a disaster of a season. Just about everything you could possibly think of has happened to the 49ers this year. And what really is frustrating about this year is 3 division games where Kyle Shanahan had the lead in the fourth quarter. In fact, he blew all 3 games in the division. This was a winnable game against the Rams on a Thursday night, a very soggy Thursday night. I still believe in Brock Purdy. I mean, you're gonna give him the contract, but you're gonna have to hit home runs on all your picks now in the draft because you're not gonna pay big time players. Got to go find a left tackle in the draft because Trent Williams, he's like up there in age. I think this will be his last year. I think that they relied too heavily on probably the greatest left tackle to ever play the game to guard Brock Purdy's blind side. Once Christian McCaffrey went out with that injury and they didn't have a run game, I knew it was over. And Deebo Samuel's a shell of himself. Brandon Ayuk on the IR. It was an awful, awful season. The good news is 2025, they're going to play a last place schedule. They're going to get a pretty high draft pick, and they could possibly go back to the NFC Championship next year because that's what the 49ers do. Every time they make the playoffs, they at least get to the NFC Championship.
You know it, Richard. All right, let's throw out Unsolicited Hot Take, bring back the other graphic, Richard, and we'll wrap up with we are going to be, again, live Friday and Saturday from the Lumpkin Center. You see right behind Richard, we have great games going on. 11 o'clock, the boys play Young Harris. Then at 1 o'clock, Coach Hauser's team's going to be taking on, I forgot who they said they were playing.
Faulkner.
Yeah, Faulkner. So you get that 11-1, and then it leads into the Muskogee County Showcase 5, 6:30, and 8. We're going to be there covering all 11 games, 3 on Friday, 8 on Saturday. And we also just added the West Central Georgia FCA All-Star Game. North and South, it's Georgia only. And one of the coaches is Coach Joe Kegler from the Spencer Green Waves. We will be there. Rick Beats will be on the call. You can catch that at noon o'clock on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. So busy week here. Can't wait to see all these all-star and great players playing it. Great event put on by J.K. Carristory, and looking forward to seeing that on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, Richard's going to be talking with Coach Hauser from CSU, and then I'm going to be talking with Coach Moore, the head boys coach, talking about how these Lady Cougars and Cougars are off to a rocking hot start and seeing what they got it planned for them heading into 2025 here on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. You're watching right now the Georgia Alabama Sports Live show that is presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. Get ready to smile. We'll be right back after this.
My name is Quinteria Perry, and this is my CVCC story. I've graduated from CVCC with my associates in medical assistant, and I received my certification from CVCC. The training that I got from CVC and being prepared to come and do clinicals helped tremendously. I started looking at scholarships, and the Ambassador Scholarship was interesting to me because you did events to earn your scholarship and you meet people. My favorite part about my job is meeting patients every day. They will crack me up every day. They make my day better. I would recommend CVCC to anyone that asks because of the scholarships, the teachers, the small stuff that you can't get at a university. They actually take the time out for each student.
Welcome back to Keeping Up with CSU Athletics as part of Georgia Alabama Sports Live. We are now with the women's head basketball coach, Coach Matt Hauser. Coach, right now, 6-3 on the season. What did you learn about your team so far early on in this season?
I think what we have learned is just kind of how to push through adversity a little bit. You learn that being on the road a lot, and I think with us only having one home game so far this non-conference, I'm playing pretty much every top team on the road, has really shown things that we need to work on and learn, and also kind of like build a little bit more chemistry within our group. But it's also tested us and gotten us ready for big moments on the road, later down the road, which, we want to prepare for. NCAA tournament time, conference tournament time. So it's been a real, blessing in that regard. And we've been really successful so far. So I'm really excited about our group.
Absolutely, Coach. 6-3 so far on the season, 1-0 in Peach Belt play. Let's talk about that transition from last year's team to this year's team. What has changed? I mean, you have some returning players, but you also have a player like Amber Abuzbe that went on to graduate, but you got some key players from last year's team that went to the Peach Belt Conference Final. But you do have some players that have returned for this year. That's why you're one of the favorites in the Peach Belt. In fact, you were preseason number 1, but I know the polls don't matter, Coach, because you'll probably think that we have to just play on the court. But what did you take away from last year's experience going into this year, and what are the expectations for CSU Lady Cougar basketball?
I think the thing that they learned from last year is just they can't take anything for granted. They can't take a practice off. They can't take a play off. They can't take thinking they got another game, thinking they got another moment to get it back. And I think that was their main learning experience last year, especially when we were down a bunch of players due to injury in the beginning of the season and dropped some games due to that we shouldn't have, and that bit us in the end at the very end of the season when it came down to NCAA play. So I think that's what they're carrying on this year is they're not, willing to, forego those moments. They're really, capitalizing on every practice and every game. And in the meantime, while we're learning, with a couple of the new players that have, entered in our, squad, but also with the returning players understanding now of what their roles are and how much bigger the roles are going to be this year.
Well, Coach, you do have some players that have returned from last year's team, including Lataya Reeves, Alana Rawls, who just got her 1,000th career point, and then Breland Snipes, who's really improved from last year and really stepping up into that leadership role. But what are some of the other players that have really stepped up this year that might be newcomers or did not get a whole lot of playing time from last year's team that have really made an impact on this year's team?
I think Susie Rudenko, our kid from Poland, she's really stepped up her game. I think every single year she's been here, this is her senior year. I've been just super excited about how much she's improved every season, and especially coming into this season, she's hit some big shots, scores the ball, plays great defense. Sophia Williams, point guard that has returned from last year. This year, she, started off the season with a broken hand, so she was out for 2 months last year. And this year, she's just giving us huge minutes with offensive rebounding, attacking, and defense energy on the court. Like you said, our big three with Bree, Latai, and Alana, of course, they're, making sure they're taking care of what they need to take care of. But Simone Led inside is giving us good, post presence, and she's a good returner for us. Samara Williams, same thing. She's a big returner for us with Jazz. And the new players, Leah and Halem, that came in this year, they're part of that chemistry that's building within the group, and they're just really participating and starting to figure this stuff out, and it's exciting to watch. So I've been really impressed with those players outside the big three, and they've been really helping us get some key wins.
No, absolutely, Coach. I mean, I know 6-3, it does not reflect the type of team that you have because you've only played one home game. That was on November the 30th against Wingate, a 66-56 victory. I know the home games will come, but what's impressive is you were able to get a big road victory in the Peach Belt Conference against Georgia College. But as you get ready to face some home competition, because this Friday you're taking on NAIA Faulkner University out of Montgomery, Alabama, and NAIA teams, they're really tricky because they could be very competitive and can take on NCAA Division II teams. But before you head out and get ready for Peach Belt Conference play, what have you done to just prepare your team, like as we get ready for the Christmas break, getting ready for this upcoming game against Faulkner on Friday? And what are some preparations that's going to go into the rigorous schedule of the Peach Belt Conference next year?
Yeah, I think what we've witnessed is seeing how we've created an atmosphere of teams just changing their whole game plan that they usually do every single day towards us, and to try to do everything they can to slow our game down, to slow our style down. And what we're witnessing with these, games that we played, either they, go into a zone or they play off a couple players and sag in the key and do whatever it takes to slow us down. And I think that's what we are learning as, we're seeing these games on the road and finding out more about us and how we can keep that pace and keep our style up. I think that's the most important thing going forward in our conference, is to not allow these teams to dictate a tempo and to make sure that we're staying with our tempo. And what's really great is how coachable these kids are and how much they're learning, because these losses that we've had have been against, like, we're talking Francis Marion. They've only lost one game. I think they're 8-1. Eckerd is 6-2. Tuskegee, whatever they are, and all these teams are NCAA teams, and you're going to see them in the NCAA tournament. But to see them change everything towards our style, to do whatever they do to try to slow us down, I think it's great for us right now, because it's fun to see what we're forcing teams to do. And now what we have to start, doing is seeing it and molding our style to still play, and still compete and to still be a scoring threat. And that is what I'm excited for, is because I think we're getting out as much of the only way that you can try to slow us down options, and now figuring out how we can still do what we're doing. And then once we cut that off, I think going forward, I think we're going to be very comfortable with what any team sends our way, because I think we've seen it in this non-conference, which was great for us, and especially seeing it on the road. So, which is even harder to play against. So I think that was one thing coaches really get worried about, is playing a really, really tough schedule, especially a tough schedule non-conference, that you might lose a game or whatever, and especially all your games being on the road, which coaches really don't, but they don't want to play us at home. We can't even invite teams, trying to get them here, paying them or whatever. So we have to go on the road and play. But I keep telling my team all the time, the Elite Eight, the Final Four, and the National Championship is not at our house. So we've got to be able to get on the road, and we have to be able to win these games against great coaches who do whatever strategic, game planning they do against us, and still figuring out how to get that win and bring it home. So it's good to do it now so we can, get it right in practice and everything. So when you're asking what we're preparing for when it comes to Peach Belt, it's not so much specifically for each team. It's what we want to do going forward every single game, no matter what the defense or what the other team presents us, we'll have an answer for it going forward.
And by the way, Coach, that game against Faulkner University this Friday at the Lumpkin Center. Also, later on in the evening, we will have the Muskogee County Christmas Showcase. There is one game in particular, Coach. I don't know if you've paid attention. Pacelli is taking on Hardaway in the nightcap. I know that would be an opportunity maybe to stick around and possibly see some future CSU Lady Cougars, because I think these two schools are some of the top schools in Columbus, and they're facing off in the Muskogee County Christmas Showcase. Yeah,
I don't know if I'm going to go watch those players that I've offered and they all went to other schools. That kind of burns me a little bit. No, I'm just playing. I love Michaela's on both teams. They're awesome. I mean, those are girls that we offered when they were sophomores and freshmen, AK over at Hardaway. And so, yeah, I mean, all those girls are great kids, and both coaches are great coaches and, do very, very well with their programs. And what you're talking about is, Columbus State is in, the home gyms, and we know pretty much all the players out in our area. And so it's great that they get to come to our campus and we get to sit there and support them, and not only get to support them, but watch and any other future, possible Cougars that maintain and come into our program, next year or the year after, going forward. So, but that Pacelli, Hardaway game is going to be one that, our coaches are going to be at, and others, especially in our gym. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun that, we're hosting again, which I love. And, see if they like, the arena of Columbus State University.
Oh, absolutely. And you can catch the game on Georgia Alabama Sports Live if you're not able to make it to the Lumpkin Center. All right, Coach, so far undefeated in the Peach Belt. The first three slate of games in the new year. I ain't gonna lie, it's gonna be tough. You're facing the two top teams in the Peach Belt right now. North Georgia College, they are 9-0. Augusta University, 7-2. You're also facing Georgia Southwestern, the defending Peach Belt conference champions. So, in your mind, what are you going to get ready for as far as what is that going to say about your team if you come out and you have a good showing against the top teams in the Peach Belt? And how's that going to help you maybe to adjust to the season, as far as, because we talked about how tough this conference is in the Peach Belt, but your first three games in the new year are really going to be a testament to how well your team is going to face against the top teams in the Peach Belt. Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be fun going at it. It's going to be fun playing those teams. We have great battles, and especially, we talked about playing North Georgia and Augusta on the road to start, but I think that's going to also be more comfortable to us because we've been playing on the road this entire time, and figuring out how to be successful on the road and how to take away wins and go from there. So, we battled really well with all those teams last year, came away with great wins, against them. I think it's just more about making sure how disciplined and how poised we are doing what we're supposed to do. And I believe the rest will take care of itself. So, but those teams and those coaches do a really good job trying to get you out of what you're supposed to do. And, they're successful with it. I mean, North Georgia being, undefeated as of right now. So they're going to be a force, especially with their, key player coming back from injury from last year, Carolyn Martin. So it's going to be a test to see where we're at that point and to see how much we've grown this, off season. So, but we played a really strong schedule, for a reason, to prepare us for this moment, because we want to come in a league and we want to walk away with a league championship and conference tournament championship. And we want to host the NCAA, regionals. So, those were goals of our players. And so, you can't hide and play, teams and not really get you ready for those moments. And I think that's what this, this non-conference has prepared us, especially going into those 3 games.
Yeah, and just that game against Augusta University, I just remember that is going to be a rematch of the Peach Belt semifinal last year, where you, as a number 3 seed, upset Augusta University, a number 2 seed, had that incredible run all the way to the Peach Belt Conference final, taking on Georgia Southwestern State University. Coach, I do want to bring it back to last year because it was a very special year. And your team fought so hard and was so close to make it into the NCAA tournament. I just want to know, how close were you to get an at-large bid for the NCAA tournament? Because I was actually watching the selection show thinking that your team was worthy enough to get an at-large bid.
Well, we were, I mean, I'm on the committee, the RAC committee. So, we were the 8th seed, but the problem is when the Conference Carolinas win their conference tournament, they get an automatic bid. So being the 8th seed ranked is not a good place, especially if, there's no other, there's 3 conferences, the Conference Carolinas, the SAC, and then the Peach Belt that are all nominated to be in the top 8. But the top 8 were the Peach Belt and the SAC. There was no Conference Carolinas. So they have to, the conference tournament is going to be the automatic bid to get in there, and they're going to, knock out the 8th seed, and that was us. But the reason why we were the number 8 seed was because of the losses early on in season that we took, without, having our players that were really, really big. And then the loss to Augusta in the beginning of the season without Lataya, that hurt us. And, we dropped a couple in conference before all of our players start coming back and, getting healthy. And once we were all healthy, we started making that great run that, you remember and everything. So, but then it came down to the conference tournament championship. If we won that game, we wouldn't have been worried about the NCAA anyways. I mean, we lost by, I think it was like 3 or 4 points. We had our opportunities there. So I think that's what these girls, these returners remember, and they remember how hard it is to get there, but how much, the simple things can affect, your progress. So I think they're really not taking anything for granted this year. So we can make a really good run again and just kind of be that program every single year in and year out that we're making these type of runs consistently because of, how disciplined this program is, and how good these players are when we recruit them and what they bring to the table.
Yeah, Coach, I do remember it was such a memorable year last year. Going down to Americus, the fans went to travel there. It's only an hour outside of Columbus. WRBL was there, and I remember watching it on the Peach Belt Network, and I was just so proud of your team and the way they could have won that game, and it was just an incredible season. And it's really it's turning over to this season because the expectations are a little bit higher just because you are ranked preseason number 1 in the Peach Belt Conference and also ranked 23rd in the NCAA Division II. Coach, we are cheering for you and hope that you have a great season. And I know that your team is just continuing to get better and to improve, and still got one more non-conference game, and then it's go time. We got the rigorous schedule of the Peach Belt Conference. But Coach, my final question to you is, how can people come out and support the CSU Lady Cougars basketball? We have a lot of basketball fans in this area that may not know about Columbus State. that want to catch a high-flying, exciting basketball game at the NCAA 2 division level. But how can they support the team? How can they get tickets? And what are some things to look forward to when they're going to a CSU basketball game?
Yeah, I mean, coming to a CSU basketball game, especially in conference right now, is just a huge entertainment extravaganza now with our new president promoting more into our athletics. We have now all these blow up, games for all these kids, shooting games, throwing games. I mean, it's just really cool how they treat all the kids when they're there while the game is actually in play. Half court shots for 50-inch TVs and all this fun stuff that they bring to the table while we're getting to watch high end men's and women's basketball. So
Nice.
The more support that we get is just amazing because it really fuels our home environment, which is what we need. And all they have to do is go to our website and, click on the women's basketball schedule or the men's basketball schedule. And up there is always, how to purchase tickets, how to, either watch the game online if they can on our Peach Belt network. And then kids 18 and under are free. So it's basically the parents that got to come or anybody else, And and it's just a great time. It's a great thing to do in Columbus, especially entertainment value to support the athletic programs for the only university in this whole area. So, and they're always top in the country. It's just fun to watch and fun to be a part of and to constantly just give back. And and we just need it as much as possible.
And by the way, that rematch of the Peach Belt Conference Championship game between Georgia Southwestern State University and Columbus State will take place on January the 8th at the Lumpkin Center. I know that that's going to be one game I'm looking forward to. Thank you so much, Coach Hauser, for being on Keeping Up with CSU Athletics. Georgia Alabama Sports Live love CSU Athletics. We want to support you guys, and we want to try to cover all the events that happens around Columbus State on the Georgia Alabama Sports Live show.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you guys, and thank you so much for always supporting, and I'll always support you guys, and anytime, any place, that we can help, we will. So thank you again for always, having our backs.
Absolutely, Coach. That was the Columbus State head basketball coach of the women's team, Coach Matt Hauser.
Georgia Alabama Sports Live wants to say thank you to one of our presenting sponsors, Buffalo Rock, and their partnership with everything that we do. And without businesses like Buffalo Rock, we wouldn't be able to go cover softball, volleyball games, every type of high school sport you can think of, local college games, and professional. So thank you to those businesses that support us, and specifically Buffalo Rock. And next time you're watching a Georgia Alabama Sports Live broadcast after a nice long day, why not enjoy it with a nice refreshing sorry? The best lemon lime soda around. Thank you to Sorry and Buffalo Rock for our partnership on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Welcome back to the Georgia Alabama Sports Live show. We are presented by, of course, you just saw Buffalo Rock and Pepsi, Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC, Gordy Eye Care, and it is time as we continue on with our Keeping Up with CSU Athletics segment that we have on our Georgia Alabama Sports Live show every single week, and it's time to bring on the head men's basketball coach of Columbus State University. His name is Coach Robert Moore. Coach, thank you so much for joining us, man.
Hi, glad to be here, man. Thank y'all for having me.
All right, Coach. As y'all just saw, if you're watching right now, Richard did his interview with Coach Matt Hauser. We didn't really get to do a preview with the girls. We did with the boys because we were at the golf tournament that was held at Bull Creek. A lot of fun to kind of talk about last season, our expectations for this season. Before we even get into all the things that you've accomplished so far this season, I just want to get your mindset, Coach, on your team right now. How do you feel about them?
Right now, feeling really good. Just the unity among each other, the accountability, holding each other accountable on defense and on offense. The guys have really surprised me in more ways than one because, we had a great group last year, but we had some tough losses. And I think they've learned from those losses and learned to put things behind them and just move on to the next one. And we taking game by game, and these guys are really showing me they want to win a championship this year.
Yeah, when we were talking, Coach, about the season, you said this could be one of my deepest teams that I've had. You like the playmaking surrounding it, the new additions with the senior experience that you've had for the last couple of years, including Jared Adderton. We're going to get to him in just a moment. But you're 8-1 right now, Coach. Your only loss was to Francis Marion, and you avenged that loss at Columbus State by winning it 83-74. You beat Reinhardt. You got Young Harris this Friday. You just beat Reinhardt like a drum last night. You beat Georgia College, West Florida, Edward Waters, another team out of Florida, University of Mount Olive, Barton College. I mean, 8-1 start. Is this what you envision? I know in the grand scheme of things, you want to win the Peach Belt. You want to win the Peach Belt Conference games. But to get off to a hot start like this, Coach, you're starting to get national recognition. Did you think y'all would be this good this early?
I thought we had the talent, and if these guys could play together, the most exciting thing about that game against Reinhardt last night, I didn't really look at the score. I just looked at how we shared the basketball. Guys moved the ball. Guys looking for the next guy to be open. And if you can keep doing that all year long, we got so many guys, like you said, are seniors that can really knock down shots. We hit 19 threes last night, and a couple of guys had 3 or 4 threes. It's going to be exciting basketball all year because I feel like our guys looking out for each other. You know, even the things that we do off the court. We had our highest GPA ever, 3.25 this
Wow.
semester. So these guys are really helping each other in the classroom, helping each other on the court. So it just all comes together.
Well, Coach, looking at if everyone goes to their stats, and we talked about this, he was the leading scorer last year, Jared Adderton, but it's like he's taking his game to another level, Coach. He went from being the best player at CSU to now potentially being the best player in the Peach Belt and one of the best players in the country. What did you see from him this offseason that made you think he was going to have a year like he's having right now?
The one thing I can say about this, these guys use their own money, got summer jobs at the YMCA and different places, and they stayed here all summer. Wisdom Ubar, Jared Adderton, Jelani James, all those guys just bought in together, trained together, worked out together, and you can see their results on the court because they just really believe in each other, and they've been here all summer, and they really put their mindset in that, hey, we're gonna make this a great year for us, and they've done that.
Coach, looking at some of the other guys that have had great games, Jelani James putting up 15 points a game, close to 7 rebounds. Another guy, Cordell Brown, who's putting up close to double-digit rebounds. Talk about the two guys that man the middle that kind of help solidify that excellent defense that you got. What can you say about them?
You know, Jelani James transferred from Georgia Tech. He's just so athletic. He got some God-given talent, and he uses that to protect the rim for us. As y'all know, we had the Defensive Player of the Year twice with Nelson Haskins is playing overseas now.
Yep.
But I just think, Jelani James just brings a different avenue. He's so athletic. And then you got Cordell Brown that was an all-tournament guy for the Peach Belt tournament last year. He's bringing his game to a new level. And those two guys protect the paint for us. They can't get in foul trouble. But we got two guys off that bench too. Messiah Jones, that's a freshman out of Riverdale. He's really good. And then you got Jordan Mitchell, who played at Shelton State last year in junior college. Those two guys give us so much depth at that position, at the forward position. So we feel really good about it.
Looking at also the new addition, Rakeem Gary from New Mexico State. This guy, he's different, Coach. I've seen it. The highlights, the way he can dribble and has that rock on a string. Talk about what he's meant, especially with Wisdom Yuba having to overcome some injuries and stuff that did allow him to play early in the season. That was your second leading scorer last year, and that's another scary option. It's like you got a Porsche in the back you haven't even utilized yet because of what Gary's been able to do so far.
Yeah, Wiz got off to a bad start with a high ankle sprain, and it really has hampered him a lot. So just the signing of Rakeem Gary, man, we just felt like he could be that punch we needed. And now you get to slide Wisdom Ubal to the 2-guard spot where he can shoot it more, but he's not been healthy, and Rakeem Gary has held that thing in place. And also the coming off the bench and starting for us right now is Roman Son, who's been a 4-year guy for us. So those guys have really meshed. And like you said, people haven't really seen the really good Columbus State basketball team yet because Wisdom Ubal has not hit his stride yet. So it could be scary, man. We just got to find a way to put all those guys together. But I looked at the Peach Belt stats the other day, and we got 3 or 4 guys in top 10, top 15 in assists with Wisdom Ubar, Roman Son, and Raheem Gary. So it could be really good basketball here at Columbus State in the next 2 months.
And you know you've had some great guards back in your
Oh,
day, and
yes.
having elite guards, Coach, that's a recipe for a really good Coach Moore team. I want to talk about Roman Son because this guy's been a 4-year player who's been waiting his time to really shine on the court. In a period of basketball, not just basketball, but just college athletics, when you don't get your opportunity quick, I'm moving on to the next thing. He believed in you. He believed in CSU. What can you say to have guys like that in the program that believe in the vision of what you've established here at CSU?
Man, you have to go all the way back to our administration, man. You know, Dr. Stewart Rayfield has done a great job of just believing in athletics. And then, you had Jay Sparks, who really knows athletics, came around a second time as an athletic director, was a women's basketball coach here. So there's a support system here in this city, in this town, and also at the university has made it be so wonderful for guys like Roman Son, who, eventually could have put his name in the transfer portal and left, but we do so much good things here academically, on the court, off the court. And that guy decided to stay. Him and his family just love Columbus State. And he believed in our coaching staff that, hey, it's going to be your turn. And now he's getting his turn, and he's really shining right now. And we feel like Roman Son has just been a big part of what we do. He's the leader on and off the court. And people really don't notice that because he's always in the apartments with the guys. He always at lunch with the guys, talking to the guys. So he's been that leader that we need.
Coach, what are some of the things, I got to ask you this question, but you're far from a perfect team. You're far from a finished product. What are some of the things you would like to work on as you head into the new year with this 8-1 record?
We got to get better on the boards. I think sometimes we get a little slack and not boxing out, rebounding. We got to get a little tougher when teams are trying to finish at the rim. I think we just give them the layup. So we as a coaching staff, we have done some things in the office, and we're really going to prepare those guys because it's going to get a little tougher in Peach Belt play, and we can't give up those offensive rebounds and second chance points so teams can take advantage of it. Because we're not going to make 19 threes every night like we did last night against Reinhardt. So we've got to be better on the glass and defensively so we can stop some teams.
Coach, and you made mention of the Peach Belt Conference. Right now, you're topped at 8-1, but you got North Georgia. They're 9-2. Flagler 6-2. You also got Augusta, who's on a 5-game winning streak. And Clayton State's always a tough match. This is a loaded Peach Belt Conference. Yeah, y'all have had a great start, but there's other teams in there that have had great starts too. How do you feel about your team heading into the Peach Belt this year that's got very balanced in the amount of teams that are very competitive this year?
Yeah, like like me, the Peach Belt is one of the tough Division II conferences in the world when you come out talking about Division II basketball.
Yep.
But I think with my guys' experience and what we went through last year, some of these guys been 3-year guys. Wisdom Ubar and Roman Son, 4-year guys. Jelani James, a 3-year guy. Jared Addison, this is his second time around. I feel like these guys know what to expect and what it's going to be like. And it goes back to that experience, man. And I try to tell young coaches that get into college basketball, your team can change year to year. And when you have that experience, you got to make a run for the title because you have so much experience and you probably won't have that experience again for 3 or 4 years. So I think our guys understand what they're getting themselves into in January. We just got to be ready to play.
Coach, we are talking with head coach Robert Moore, longtime coach at CSU. Will be a Chattahoochee Valley Hall of Famer. I'm already projecting that for you, Coach, because you've done an excellent job at CSU. But I got to say, after Young Harris on Friday, what's kind of the plan for the guys? Because then your next game is not January 2nd at home against Middle Georgia State. By the way, that Young Harris game, that will be at CSU Friday at 11 o'clock. Come out, show support. We're going to be in attendance there leading up to Muskogee County Showcase. But what's your plan for your guys after Friday for the Christmas break? But you don't want them to get rusty. You don't want to lose the momentum you got. So what's the plan for your guys, Coach?
It's so different in Division II because you watch on TV all these big time Division I schools get to play during Christmas break, and you watch a lot of TV. But Division II, after the Young Harris game on Friday morning, they'll go home. Raheem Gary will go to Texas. Harp Hunter will go to Charlotte, North Carolina. A lot of guys will go to Atlanta. What we're telling our guys, get into your high school gym, get with your trainer, and just get shots up and keep your conditioning up, because we'll be off. We won't be back in Columbus till December 29th. So the guys got like 9 days off. So we don't want them to get rusty, but they got to take it among themselves and hold themselves accountable to do some workouts over the break so we don't lose anything when we come back.
What about yourself, Coach? What's your plan for the holidays? Watching some high school basketball, being with the family, watching NBA, college? What do you got going?
If it was up to my wife, I'll stay home and do a honeydews. But
Oh, no doubt, Coach.
you know me very well, so my schedule goes like this. Friday, I'm gonna be with you at the high school Muscogee County Christmas tournament.
Yep.
Saturday, Persian Williams is my assistant coach. Was my assistant coach for a long time. They're playing Duke, so I'm gonna be in Atlanta on Saturday watching Duke and Georgia Tech. So I've got a schedule, and then my grandson's birthday is on Monday, and we're taking him to see the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Atlanta Hawks. So I've got a schedule all the way down to the last 2 or 3 days of Christmas, man.
And it's revolved around that orange ball. There's no doubt about it, Coach. I do got to ask this question. When looking at this team, compared to all the teams that you have coached, you've been a part of, even going back to the Herbert Green days, what do you put this team in? I'm not saying this is not a finished product like the other teams. I'm talking about the cohesion, the chemistry. Do you think this team has what it takes, like previous past champions that you've coached and been a part of at CSU?
And like you said, man, we don't have the finished product yet. These guys know they got some big games coming up in January, February. It's just the way I see them every day react in practice, react around each other. I think the love and the unity they have for one another can carry them very deep. I can't say right now how would I put them in line with some of the great teams. A lot of people, me and Scott Miller was talking about that yesterday. How would you compare him to the Cam Baker team, the Kenny Funderburk team?
Right.
I just think it's not a finished product yet. And I'm looking forward to doing that toward the end of the season in February.
Yeah, Cam just called me right now and says, don't ever compare anyone to my team. You knew that was going to be coming, Coach. Well, Coach, last question. The Muscogee County Showcase is happening, but I want you to talk about first before that, because it's great high school basketball. Pack out the gym, see what CSU Lumpkin Center has. But I want you to also talk about the fact that you and the girls also have a game Friday that people can come out and watch. So it's a full day of basketball Friday, starting with CSU, ending with high school basketball. Should be a lot of fun, shouldn't it?
Yeah, I want everybody to come out. I mean, Jimbo Davis did a great job again with Jeff Battles at Muscogee County and getting all these kids over here. They're going to be screaming and hollering for the Cougars. We're playing a tough team in Young Harris, who I think is like 9-3 right now. So it should be a great game. We'll play at 11. Then Matt Hauser and his women will come in and play Faulkner at 1. It's going to be great basketball. And then after you get through with college basketball, you got high school basketball coming in there. Some great games up on that Friday night. I'll be around all day Friday. And then, like you said, y'all will finish up on Saturday. So before you start your Christmas shopping and finishing up Christmas shopping, come by the Lumpkin Center and watch some great basketball. This city has some great teams. I want to commend Carver High School football team for winning the state championship yesterday. So it's good things going on in athletics here in Columbus, Georgia, Muscogee County.
No doubt about it. And it starts, too, with Columbus State. And, by the way, the girls and the boys are both really good and potentially going to be Peach Belt Conference champions. Coach, thank you so much for joining us. Look forward to seeing you on Friday as you take on Young Harris. Thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
That is Coach Robert Moore, and that is our Keeping Up with CSU Athletics segment. You saw Matt Hauser with Richard. I just ended with Robert Moore. And thank y'all so much for watching Georgia Alabama Sports Live. It was a lot of fun. Congratulations again to the Carver Tigers. And we're going to be right here behind me at the Lumpkin Center Friday and Saturday. 11 games in 2 days, and you're going to get it all on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Thank y'all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show. Thank you for watching the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC.